But I'm stronger. You thought that I'd be broke without you, but I'm richer. You thought that I'd be sad without you. I laugh harder. Thought I wouldn't grow without you. Now I'm wiser. Thought that I'd be helpless without you, but I'm smarter. You thought that I'd be stressed without you, but I'm chilling. You thought I wouldn't sell without you. Sold 9 million. I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I'm a survivor. Keep on surviving. I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I'm a survivor. Keep on surviving. Thought I couldn't breathe without you.
You recognize some Destiny's Child when you hear it, right? It was on this day in 2001 that Destiny's Child took this song, Survivor, to number 1 on the UK singles chart. It was the second chart topper in the UK for Destiny's Child, who became the first female band to have more than one number 1 in the UK. And fun fact about Destiny's Child, a long time ago, around a campfire in a beach community not too far from here. We love our Port Elgin here from the show. We were sitting around, enjoying a few adult beverages, enjoying the campfire, playing some Name That Tune. And my friends were so impressed with me because I could get tune after tune after tune and then name the members of the band and tell you the year that the song came out. And I was feeling like the king of the Name That Tune world until the selection of songs became much more modern. And all of a sudden, I was the big modern moron. So I just guessed Destiny's Child and or Beyonce for every single song after that. Beyonce wasn't Destiny's Child, right? I'm pretty sure she was. On this day in 2001, Survivor went to number 1 in the UK for Destiny's Child. The moral of the story is enjoy the moment, but don't get too caught up in yourself, right? 7 minutes after 9 on this Tuesday morning, the 22nd of April. Thank you very much for stopping by, spending some of your time with us today. A beautiful sunny start to the day. We'll take it. I feel as though we are owed weather like this. Last week on the show, we were talking about the ways that we spoil our pets. And Joe called in to share a story. It was an interesting one. A few eyebrows were raised. I was asked some questions about it afterwards. He spoils his pet by letting the dogs go out and hunt the other animals in the neighborhood, like the geese and whatever else the dogs can find. Okay, I guess. However, our dog, little idiot that she is, for the first time ever, caught a squirrel last night. Caught it in the backyard. So that was great because by the time we got to the dog and the squirrel's life had been extinguished. It's a cycle of life, right? Food chain and all that stuff. But I didn't sign up. Look, I'm fine. When I decided that we would have a dog in the house, I did sign up for cleaning up after the dog. But I didn't mean the carcasses of dead squirrels. And if my old buddy, producer Paulie, is listening this morning, I'm sorry, she didn't mean it. The squirrel runs really fast, and it's furry, and it's got a scent, and it drives her bananas. Usually, she just chases them around. But this was the first time that she caught one. My beloved, who witnessed the tragedy, said that the squirrel ran right in Rosie the pandemic pup's direction. I mean, come on, squirrel, go the other way. But no, Rosie was quick enough, and the squirrel was dumb enough to be caught, and yeah, that's how the night went in the Farwell household yesterday. All right, how about a Farwell Show 5 for you this morning? Number 1, Archbishops of Toronto and Montreal set to hold masses today in honor of Pope Francis. The Vatican announcing yesterday that Francis died of a stroke and heart failure at age 88, just after the end of Holy Week. I really can't think of a more fitting way for a pope to end. Canada's newest cardinal, Cardinal Frank Leo, Archbishop of Toronto, and Montreal's Archbishop Christian Lapine will preside over a mass in their respective cities this afternoon. The funeral will be held on Saturday in St. Peter's Square. Number 2, with Election Day less than a week away, all federal party leaders are making their last pitches to Canadians on the campaign trail. Today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is expected to unveil his party's costed platform while campaigning in the Toronto area. Liberal leader Mark Carney will be in Quebec for an announcement, while NDP leader Jagmeet Singh will make an announcement today in Vancouver. Election Day is next Monday, and today is the last day for early voting. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, this April the 22nd, marks Earth Day, when people worldwide contemplate ways to reduce their impact on the planet. A U.S.-based project wants us to be aware of the microfibers that are shed by fabric every time we run a load of laundry. Vermont's Rosalia project says a single load of laundry can release millions of fibers that are so tiny, wastewater treatment plants can't capture them all. Instead, they wind up in local waterways that connect to the ocean. Marine animals eat them. That can pass the plastic on to larger animals and even us humans. Now, closer to home, Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region reminds us that shopping at the Restore leads to a healthier planet and stronger communities. Number 4, a new plan to guide growth in Kitchener will add some 35,000 homes to neighborhoods around transit stations. The population of Kitchener is expected to surpass 400,000 in the next 25 years. And the Growing Together East plan calls for intensification around the Block Line, Fairway, and Sports World LRT stations. 400,000 plus in Kitchener by 2051. I've seen signs already that say we're at 300,000 people in Kitchener. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Kitchener Rangers will try tonight to become just the 6th team in OHL history to come all the way back from a 3-0 playoff series deficit as they face off with the Spitfires in Windsor. The Rangers have won 3 in a row to tie the series. Now, one of the other OHL teams to come back from a 3-0 series deficit was the Windsor Spitfires, who actually did it twice, including in 2010 against our Kitchener Rangers. How about some payback, baby? We've got the game for you tonight from Windsor starting at 6:30. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, have you received a ticket from the photo radar, the automated speed enforcement, the speed cameras in our region? Are you willing to talk about it? Some folks have. I'd love to hear your story, because the folks that I've heard from are not at all happy with the time and location of their ticket. I'll share that with you coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Have you been caught on camera speeding yet? I wanted to share with you a couple of experiences from folks that have, and I appreciate you sharing these experiences because you present your case in a very reasonable manner, and I hope that the more we can present these cases in such a reasonable manner, we can get our region to consider the unreasonable way in which they are administering automated speed enforcement, photo radar, in this community. First to an email from Brad, who writes to Mike at 570news.com. Mike, I wanted to reach out regarding a series of speeding tickets I received, which seem more like a money grab than a genuine safety measure. Over the course of about 3 months, from August to October of last year, I was issued 4 tickets. These were for speeding in the school zone in front of Laurentian Public School, traveling south on Westmount Road. One of the tickets was issued on a weekday after 4 p.m. Fine. However, the next 2 tickets were issued on weekends, and the worst one was given after 4 p.m. on a weekend in August. Honestly, it feels excessive. What makes this even more frustrating is the inconsistency with the speed limit. From Forest Hill Public School, now put yourself here on Westmount Road, traveling south, okay? At Forest Hill Public School, you're starting to go down a little bit of a slope towards towards Ottawa, pardon me. From Forest Hill Public School, the speed limit was posted at 50 kilometers per hour, all the way down to the 40 kilometer per hour sign in front of Laurentian Public School. This was the case in August and September, possibly into October, until a 40 kilometer per hour sign was added to the light post at the GRT bus station just past the Ottawa Westmount intersection. Based on the posted limits, I was only going 0 to 3 kilometers over the limit, which hardly seems like a justification for these tickets by the speed camera. While I understand the importance of school zone safety, I do think we need to be reasonable in enforcing these limits. It's frustrating to feel like I was unfairly targeted for costly minor infractions through the use of poorly coordinated technology. Thanks for hearing me out, Mike. I appreciate your time. That from Brad, and just this morning from Andrew, again to Mike at 570news.com. I got a $108 fine in the mail today because a camera caught me doing an insane 46 kilometers per hour going past Bluevale High School on a Sunday afternoon. I could care less what BS justification anyone wants to offer. This is nothing more than a money grab. I'm fine if that happened during school hours or even just on weekdays, and the speed limit wasn't 30 freaking kilometers per hour. But Sunday afternoon? Have you recently tried to drive 30 kilometers per hour? I was cutting through North Waterloo this past Saturday from Costco and was going past a grade school, and I slowed to 30 kilometers per hour there, and I was passed on the right by a guy on a mountain bike in the cycling lane. I'm sure I must have tagged 40 kilometers per hour at some point, and I should expect another of these blankety-blank pieces of camera work in the mail next week. That from Andrew to Mike at 570news.com. 30 does seem excessively slow. If you're calibrating that camera at 35 or lower, ouch. As Brad pointed out, he figures as though he was clocked at somewhere between 0 and 3 kilometers over the posted speed limit, and the inconsistency in the signs makes it difficult. But again, can we please, if you want to keep it 30, you keep it 30. That's your business, I suppose. But can we please enforce these school zone speed limits when school is in session? Can we do that? Am I asking a lot? I'm not asking a lot. I don't often ask much at all, and I'm not asking much this morning. School zone speed limits should be enforced during school hours. Even, let's go 7 to 6 on weekdays. Nothing on weekends, nothing on school holidays, and for the love of all things holy, nothing in August, okay? Or July. Come on with your coming on. We need to be reasonable about this, or we, as drivers, will get even more unreasonable. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thanks, Mike, for the email to Mike at 570news.com. I got a ticket from a speed camera on Westmount Road in front of Laurentian Public School on a Saturday which I think is extreme and just slightly excessive. Mike, thanks for the email. Westmount Road seems to be the place to get caught, at least with our listeners this morning. I'll remind you, the statistic we shared with you from yesterday, 5, count them, 5 speed cameras in Wellington County in operation since January 11th have generated more than 84,000 tickets in 3 months. 84,000 tickets in 3 months from 5 cameras. I mean, we're talking close to 1,000 tickets a day, give or take, and $1.5 million in revenue for Wellington County when it estimated that the entire year's worth of revenue would equate to $1 million. It's a pretty wild time. And don't forget, there's a company in behind the speed cameras that also gets paid for the operation of or installation of, whatever the case may be. But everybody's getting a cut here. Everybody is getting a cut. And I'm going to encourage you to call your regional counselor. Put your regional counselor to work. Easiest job in the region politically, because everybody just calls their city counselor for things. Go to your regional counselor, okay? And let them know that you think the speed camera program is currently unreasonable. I strongly endorse you doing that. Anne is with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Anne.
Yes, good morning. I'm just reacting, I guess, shall we say, to that speed camera thing that's on Mike's show right now.
Yes, you're talking to Mike right now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. It's too early in the morning. Come on.
Come on now, Anne. Listen here. I've been up for hours already. Come on. Come on with your coming on.
Yeah, exactly. Smarten up, eh?
That's right.
Anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we were talking about that speed camera that's on Westmount, south of Ottawa.
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay, that one there I had an experience with. I believe it was maybe 2 years ago. Doesn't matter when. Anyways, I all of a sudden get a ticket in the mail, and I'm looking at it, and I thought, what the hell? Picture of my truck, blah, blah, blah. You have a ticket. Now, get this. I went 3 clicks over. 3. I got a ticket for $43 at that point. And I mean, $43 isn't a hell of a lot of money, but really, $43 for 3 kilometers over.
And I'm sorry I got to run to get the news, but that is terrible. 43 for everybody going 3 clicks over, $43, $43, $43, $43. It's no wonder these things are raking in so much money. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Are you a smartphone user? Of course you are. Heavy user? Intermittent user? More to the point, do you worry about smartphone use amongst your kids? Oh, I know I do, and always have. I have a hard enough time with the ding-dang things myself. Jonah Davids is the author of a new research paper for the Macdonald-Laurier Institute called Wired for Worry. Jonah is a research fellow with the Maine Policy Institute and a researcher for the American Fund and joins our program this morning. Jonah, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks very much for making the time to talk about this important issue. You argue that smartphones and the social media usage that come along with them are clearly key factors in the rise in youth mental health issues. What are you seeing? What leads you to that conclusion?
Sure. Well, it's basically connecting all of the evidence that's come out over the last couple of years. So we have a lot of data that's shown that there's been this rise in youth mental health issues over the last decade. And this coincides time-wise with the rollout of social media, smartphones, and kind of the ubiquitous access that we all have, including kids, to those products. So there's kind of a correlational argument you can make there. And then there's more and more research that shows that social media use, especially when it's problematic use, which is, using it for hours and hours and hours all the time, that this is related with poor mental health. And so when we just put all the data together, and I tried to do that for this study in a Canadian context, I think it's fair to say that there definitely is an impact on youth mental health from social media.
We have seen governments around the world begin to regulate social media use by children. Here in Canada, we have the proposed Online Harms Act. Are these steps in the right direction, in your opinion?
So I think that we have to be very careful because when we start trying to regulate what people can see online, the kinds of content that they can access or use, I think it can very quickly infringe on our, freedom of speech, our ability to say and post what we want online. And that's especially concerning to me because we've seen in other countries, most notably the United Kingdom recently, that people get arrested for, saying things that the government isn't in favor of. So I think we have to be very careful about regulating this because people are going to want to use it to enforce a lot of content moderation. So what I argue for instead in this piece is instead of going after content, we should really just try and raise the minimum age of social media so that kids are accessing it later.
So what beyond that? And I think we've seen this. Australia was the first that maybe restricted social media use to people over the age of 16. What other kinds of things could we be doing that are more reasonable by way of approach to this?
Yeah, so I think raising the age would be one. And one regulation that we could ask to go along with that is we could ask the social media companies to verify age in a more robust way. And there's new technologies that allow you to do that without infringing on privacy. Another thing that I think could be done is to strengthen the school cell phone and social media bans, which many schools already have, but just often aren't very well enforced. And then also, I just think it also has to be somewhat of a local thing. Parents are coming up with their own ways to delay, the age at which their kids are first using social media. Maybe it's meeting up with other parents in your community or your school to try and say, hey, everybody, let's wait till the kids are 16 before we get everyone smartphones or let the kids on social media. But some kind of collective community action, I think, is warranted as well. This
is one of the areas, Jonah, where I find myself kind of stuck when it comes to this. Again, I agree completely that the ubiquitous nature of smartphones and the apps that those phones contain are causing a host of problems. I wonder, though, if the solutions to these problems should be state-driven or if they should start in the home with families.
I have also wondered about this a lot, and there's obviously a wide variety of opinions because people are hesitant to have the state be involved with anything, especially involving, say, a private company. I think, a stance that we could take on this is just to say, look, we don't want to really regulate social media. We don't want to stop it. We're just concerned that maybe, kids are not mature enough to really understand its full uses and to be able to regulate their own use of it. So that's why I'm trying to argue for, as a minimum, a state intervention is possible. But I do think that just, having some kind of actions to delay the age at which very young kids are using these products, I think would be good for them. And there already is a minimum age, right, of social media use anyway, which is 13. So just increasing that, I think, is still sort of within the bounds without being, infringing too much on people's individual liberty.
Jonah, I really appreciate your work on this and the time you've given us on the show today. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Jonah Davids is a research fellow with the Maine Policy Institute and a researcher for the America Fund. He has written a paper for the Macdonald-Laurier Institute entitled Wired for Worry, How Smartphones and Social Media Are Harming Canadian Youth. I don't think that we're going to have any argument about that, are we? Smartphones themselves and the social media usage that comes with them, absolutely harmful to the developing brain. It's harmful enough for older folks, isn't it? Like, I'm not just speaking for myself in that regard, am I? Jonah argues that there are relatively reasonable things that Canada could implement right now. One of them being raising the minimum age of social media use to 16. Others include denying government the power to decide what constitutes so-called harmful content, the funding of experimental research on social media and mental health, a strengthening of school cell phone and social media bans. I read a piece recently that threw cold water all over that, saying, if you think there are actual bans in place at our schools, think again. Jonah also suggests that raising the awareness of the downsides of social media would be a reasonable step here, and reorienting childhood around free play instead of focusing on screen time. I wonder, from your perspective, is this something you want to see the state step in and help us control? Or does this really begin and end in the home? I mean, at some point, the 9 or 10 or 11-year-old gets the smartphone in their hands. Why? Why at that age? I remember the battle in our house, and it was 15. And I still thought that was too young, but I am an old fuddy-duddy. And I know many families start a whole heck of a lot younger than 15 when it comes to their child having a smartphone. But is that child at 13, 12, 15, you pick the age, ready for all that comes with having that cell phone in their hands? Does it start at home, or do we need state/government intervention here to improve the mental health of our young people because they are now wired for worry? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I just think it also has to be somewhat of a local thing. You know, parents are coming up with their own ways to delay the age at which their kids are first using social media. Maybe it's meeting up with other parents in your community or your school to try and say, hey, everybody, let's wait till the kids are 16 before we get everyone smartphones or let the kids on social media. But some kind of collective community action, I think, is warranted as well.
Jonah Davids is a research fellow with the Maine Policy Institute and a researcher for the America Fund. He's written a paper for the Macdonald Laurier Institute entitled Wired for Worry, How Smartphones and Social Media Are Harming Canadian Youth. I think we intuitively understand this, right? That smartphones and social media are harming our kids. I'm just not sure we have the stuff to do anything about it, because really, I keep coming back to this. I guess, sure, there is role for government here in some level of regulation, but I have to ask why it has to be state intervention here when we seem unable to have the proper interventions at home. Believe you me, I know it's going to be a whale of a struggle, isn't it? But is the struggle worth it for the mental health and well-being of your kid? I would argue yes, but I also came through this at a time where the generations were just different. It wasn't as ubiquitous as young when our kids were getting older. So I kind of dodged that one. But if you've got a 9 or a 10 or an 11-year-old now or younger and you're thinking about them growing up, when does the smartphone end up in their hands? And whose choice is that? The government's or yours as a parent? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Paul is with us this morning. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Mike. How are you today?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
Good.
Go Leafs, go, or go Rangers, go.
I'll take both.
Yes. I just wanted to comment on the social media, and I think the state needs to step in because to give the parents the chance to fight for their kids and their mental health. Putting it on the parents to actually take away from what they can or cannot do should be like alcohol and driving a car and going to war. They need to have special ages where they can participate if they so choose to desire. What do you think?
Yeah, Paul, I hear where you're coming from, and that makes sense on some level, right? We have to be a certain age before we get a driver's license, right? We have to be a certain age before we can buy alcohol or a lottery ticket, things like that. Having said that, how many of you got behind the wheel, maybe even in a safer setting on the family farm or something like that before the age of 16? How many of you either snuck alcohol at home or because you were at home, your parents allowed you to consume it? And I'm not trying to parent shame here in any way. Like you do what's right for your family. I guess where I see the greatest role for government in all of this is in the regulation of big tech itself. Because we know that big tech was way ahead of the curve here. Big tech has won, right? I still talk about my very first BlackBerry back in the day. I carried the BlackBerry Pearl when it was first out, and it had the little LED light in the top left-hand corner of it, and it would flash red when there was a message. And like that's it. We're like Pavlov's dog, right? Hear the bell, start to salivate. See the red light, got to check your phone. They knew how to addict us to the technology, for sure. Is there room for governments to regulate big tech? Maybe there's room for governments to siphon some of that revenue from big tech to fund mental health programs and more research into the impacts of smartphone usage and social media usage, etc. I really think that, like, I grew up in a stricter household. Granted, I'm a child of the 1970s, and there were things that just, like, there were rules. You can do this. You can go to bed at this time. You can't do that. I mean, all kinds of things like that. And that's just sort of the way it went. And I think we've gotten away from that because it's a lot harder, isn't it? The struggle is real when you say to the child that you love, you cannot do that or you cannot have that. I don't feel as though we have the same determination to stand up for those do's and do nots in our houses. Bryce sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. When I was younger, my family gave me and my siblings a phone at 7th grade. But when you were in class, you were not to use it. And if you did, the teacher could take it away. So I do think it starts at home. Bryce, appreciate the email and weighing in on the show this morning. It's all about a conversation and bringing different perspectives to it. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We want to make sure you have as much information as we can possibly provide ahead of voting day next Monday. April the 28th is Election Day. We have reached out to all of our local candidates in the 5 ridings in this region and asked each candidate 3 simple questions. Why are you running? What experience do you bring to this role? And what will you do for the people that you could represent should you be elected next Monday? And we allow you the chance to hear directly from them. Ethan Russell is running for the Greens in Kitchener South Hespeler. Here are his answers to our questions.
So I would say the big reason as to why I chose to run now is because I believe we're almost kind of at a point where it's too important not to. You know, we've been through nearly 10 years of Liberal governments now, and it doesn't really feel like a lot is being done. Everything that they introduce is like, oh, it's good, but it's only a half measure. And it's like, we haven't seen movement on the climate. We haven't seen movement on things like, $10 a day childcare. We have these programs like $10 a day childcare that are good, but heavily missing. And it seems that the main opposition is this party that only wants to make things worse. So I feel we just need another option. And I thought that the Greens were the best option that provided. And if that meant that I had to run, then that meant I had to run.
What experience do you bring to the role that you'd want the community to know about?
So I would say a big part of the experience is just the fact that I haven't really come from that. I've come from like a very working class background. You know, like I've seen my parents struggle. I've seen, the ebbs and flows of the world economy take their toll on them. This tariff crisis that we're seeing, it's not the first time that my dad's work has been deeply under threat and then thereby my family put under threat. And I think just that experience alone, I'm not just some big shot who's never had a job, walked his way into Parliament at age 24, and I'm not a banker who was fed by a silver spoon. It's an actual working class experience. I worked in childcare, I've worked in retail, I've lived among people who've been working class. I know the struggles that Canadians feel, especially right now.
What would you do for voters if they do decide to elect you to office?
The main thing that I want to bring is that I want to try and be like this community champion for Kitchener-South Hespeler. I feel like a lot of our elected officials kind of just ignore us a lot of the time. You know, I don't personally see Valerie Bredford out there fighting for us in the same way that I see people like Mike Morris fighting for the people of Kitchener Centre. I want to do that. I want to be there for the constituents. I want to be able to be somebody that they can reach out to at any time. I want to help people. I want to fight for what really matters here on the ground.
Fighting for what really matters here on the ground. Ethan Russell is the Green Party candidate in Kitchener-South Hespeler, and you can learn more about the upcoming federal election. Canada Votes 2025. Just check out kitchener.citynews.ca, and we will continue to bring the audio from each of the candidates who responded to our inquiries running for your vote in next Monday's federal election. We'll sprinkle them in through the show all week, trying to give you as much information as we can about the election to come. What's it take to get a water fountain installed in Cambridge? Probably more than you'd think. We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Roger. I remember when this issue was first raised in Cambridge, and I thought, well, there's a throwback idea. I mean, how many public water fountains do you see these days anyway? And I know some of you, when you hear the words public water fountain, you cringe and you say, yuck. But seriously, there was a time not too long ago, because I'm not quite that old. Okay, I'm old, but that water fountains were plentiful. You'd find them all over the ding-dang place. Not so much anymore. And as much as I've covered municipal councils over my years in this business, I still find myself sometimes amazed, and this is one of those times, how long it can take or how much is involved in just getting something as simple as a water fountain installed in one of our cities. Scott Hamilton is the Ward 7 councillor in Cambridge, joins the program this morning. As always, Scott, appreciate your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. I'm shaking off the rust from a nice holiday weekend and ready to get back to work. Good man,
good man. So you and I chatted some time ago. It's probably getting close to a couple of years now with the idea that you brought forward to Cambridge Council of getting a water fountain installed for the public to use when they need a water bottle refilled or whatever the case may be. And here we are all this time later and still no water fountain. Can you kind of bring us up to speed here?
Sure. You're almost right, Mike. It was about maybe 22 months ago or so. It was June 2023, and I brought a motion to Cambridge City Council to request a drinking fountain be installed in one of our downtown cores in Cambridge, just as a pilot project, just to see how it would work out. In Canada, we have the most fresh water per capita in the world. We actually have 20% of the entire world's freshwater reserves here. But sadly, life is becoming more unaffordable as we see. And so to pay escalating prices for clean water in a plastic bottle, which is not environmentally friendly, it's costly, it's inconvenient. I started thinking back to my youth and to a variety of cities in Europe where there's just public water accessible for free everywhere through a drinking fountain. So why not try to bring one of these back to Cambridge, test it out, see how it works? And as you mentioned, this wouldn't be the classic germ fountain of the 1960s or 70s with some kid wrapping his mouth around the whole spout. There's been a lot of advances with bottle fillers, with spouts that protect the user from getting any type of bacterial contamination. So, yeah, why not try bring these back to Cambridge? And so it did pass a couple of years ago unanimously through council. And since then, it has come back to council a few times. It's been deferred. We've had different committees that have wanted to alter it and amend it. And even though we still don't see the drinking fountain in there yet, I'm really happy that it is now included in what is called the the City Hall campus redevelopment project. So it's kind of been linked up with another large-scale project the city is planning, and hopefully it will come forward in the budget in 2026. So even though it's not on the ground yet, Mike, it looks like it's in the works, and it'll be nicer than what we previously expected a couple years ago.
Okay, so you get something a little nicer despite the time it's taken to get to this point. But when you say, Scott, that it's in the budget, we know now that under strong mayor powers granted by the provincial government, the mayors of larger municipalities, aka Cambridge, control the budget. So do you have any work to do here, any lobbying to do with Mayor Liggett to make sure that this remains in the budget?
I think so, and it's like every single thing that goes through the budget, right? If you want to advocate for anything on behalf of your residents or your constituents or the entire city, you need to make a convincing case for it. And luckily, I think this case has already been made by a lot of our committees. So the Farmers Market Committee, for example, they're a big fan of it because it pulls people into that downtown core, gives people clean, accessible water to drink while they're using the farmers market. And because it's a placemaking project, remember a few years ago, Mike, I brought the concept of a motion to bring the concept of placemaking to the city. This would be one of those placemaking concepts that would really pull people into the core, especially around the farmers market, because the farmers market, 6 days out of the week, is basically a parking lot. So why not add to it so people can use it throughout the week? So the Farmers Market Committee was in favor. The Environmental Committee was in favor because it reduces plastics. The Cycling and Trails Committee are in favor because it would be placed in a core strategically so it's close to a bike trail. People can hop off and get a drink. The Arts Committee was in favor because there are artistic installations that are going to be planned to be put around it. And now the Accessibility Committee is also in favor because we now have a fountain, thanks to their hard work on this, that is very accessible, that can be used by all residents of Cambridge, all walks of life. And because it's now being combined with a paver stone project, so that entire kind of area between the old Cambridge City Hall and the Farmers Market, that will all be redone, new trees, new paver stones, new bike repair facilities, new accessible parking spots, and of course a new water fountain. I think all of the committees and the residents and all the positive word we've heard about it, I'm really confident and hopeful that we will see this as part of the 2026 budget. But as you mentioned, Mike, it is ultimately in a strong mayor budget. A lot of the decision-making does come down to the mayors, and I look forward to speaking with Mayor Liggett about it.
So if we share that optimism that you have, Scott, that it will remain in the 2026 budget and ultimately be a part of this placemaking project in Cambridge's core, when might the water fountain be installed?
That's a great question, Mike. I mean, there's a part of me that says, like, we've got to take action, right? Like, you can have 30 ideas, but if you don't act on any of them, what's the point, right? So we always want things to be done as soon as possible. But, I always say that the perfect is, the enemy of the good. It's good to put something in there even when it might not be perfect, right? It's good to have something in there. It's better than nothing. But here, because we have had some committees bring up some relevant points where fountains should be accessible to every single person in the community, I entirely agree with it. We do need to be, in life and in council, we need to be flexible, we need to be adaptable. And this is now a project where, even though we have to wait a little bit longer, it will be accessed by a lot more people. It will be accentuated, and it will also be cheaper overall by combining it with the Paverstone project. So when it's going to come in, Mike, I'm not quite sure, but, as the old song lyric goes, the days are long, but the years are fast. So I'm hopeful that before we know it, we're going to blink and we're going to have a beautiful downtown City Hall campus with a water fountain and with all those other features. And this fountain will be a fun center point for Galt and the city of Cambridge as a whole.
Okay, so realistically, Scott, from your motion first coming to council in June of 2023, we could be, by the time the fountain is installed, 4 or 5 years from the time that motion was first tabled. Any sense of frustration on your part? Does it surprise you that it takes this long to get a water fountain installed?
I mean, I always want something done as quickly as possible, but you have to ensure that when you do something like this and you're spending taxpayer dollars, that it's done properly, right? It's the old measure twice, cut once philosophy. And so even though I would have loved to have seen a water fountain in there earlier, just the changes that staff have made, that the committees have made to make it, again, to beautify it and make it more accessible, I think it really will be worth the wait. And because of the the outpouring we've had of support, the ideas that have come forward, the committees that have really stepped up and given some tremendous advice to staff and council, I really think it will be one of those great projects that the city of Cambridge can implement and look back on to say, hey, that was a really cool thing, and it pulled the downtown core together. It benefits residents, and because we combined all these things, ultimately it will save us money in the end and create a better product. So yes, even though I wish in life I could have, immediate gratification with things like this, we have to be careful, right? Measure twice, cut once, make sure it's done properly with the biggest and best bang for the buck. And that seems to be what staff and our committees are doing right now. And I trust them. I trust their opinion. And it looks like the product and the designs they've produced, Mike, are really great. So I'm happy to wait for it, and I'm excited to see what comes of it, and I will absolutely keep pushing for it because I think it'd be a great benefit to our residents to get clean, fresh water. It's a human right, and to do it in a great and beautiful spot in the downtown core. The wait will be worth it, I hope.
All right. Well, when it's installed, and we know it will be, I'm sharing your optimism. Let's have a drink together of water at the fountain.
Deal.
Done.
Deal. Sounds good, Mike. I appreciate it.
Scott, thanks for the time this morning. Appreciate the update.
You too, Mike. Have a great day.
Scott Hamilton, Ward 7 councillor in Cambridge. Listen, the cynic in me says this, okay? You wonder why it takes so long to get houses built, right? Like, you wonder. It's a ding-dang water fountain. It'll be 4 to 5 years-ish from the time the motion came to council that the fountain is actually in place. But hey, it's worth the wait for the clean drinking water for the fine residents of the even finer city of Cambridge. But if you ever wondered how municipal politics works, that gives you a pretty good indication. We're going to take a break. When we come back, what's the most creative way you have ever applied for a job? Was it successful? Wait till you hear what this University of Waterloo student did and where she ended up getting hired. All over social media. I'll share the story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. How far have you gone in an effort to land a job? In this business, you send out, by way of application, something we call a demo tape, where you would take the very best clips of your work and edit them together in some sort of entertaining or compelling fashion and then send that off. I'm old enough to have begun doing this on audio cassettes a way back when. And then you would put the cassette with a resume and cover letter into the mail and hope for the best when you sent off that demo tape. Demo reels with video, of course, if you're on the TV side of things, et cetera, et cetera. At various times over the course of my employment searches, I did change my resume to make it look like a newsletter, to make it look like a newspaper, trying to make it stand out because I was once also on the side of hiring people. And when everything just looks the same, you want to try to cut through the clutter. And is that more relevant today than ever? Perhaps it is, because we know what the competition is like for jobs these days. So I would like to introduce you to Julia Federin, who is a fourth-year communications student at the University of Waterloo. And she decided she wanted to not just work for necessarily, but be an intern at e-commerce giant Shopify. I'm sure you're well aware of Shopify. Had offices, I don't think they still do, on, maybe they do, on Willis Way in Waterloo. Anyway, Shopify. Everybody knows Shopify, right? And Julia wanted to work there. So she decided, instead of just sending in the traditional resume and cover letter, she would make her own post on social media and directly ask Shopify for the job.
Shopify doesn't seem to have any marketing internships. What if I became the first? So I don't code, but I build story, connection, and community. Since I was little, I've been putting myself out there.
Like every time I do something, I always feel like I'm making a video, I swear.
Sharing my creativity, silliness, and countless ideas for the world to see. I built a YouTube community of 10,000 plus people who chose to stick around. I started collabing with brands. I launched a podcast to spotlight ambitious students, people like me who dream big. At Socratica, I joined forces with student builders and organized events that brought people together. I created spaces where people felt seen, heard, and inspired to keep going. Even when no one was watching, I kept showing up for my work, for my passion, for the people who needed to know they weren't alone. That's the kind of marketing that matters. That's what I bring. And if you're all about bold ideas, then here's mine. Let me veer first.
22-year-old Julia Federin, a fourth-year communications student at the University of Waterloo, posted that to her X account. It's had more than 1 million views, hundreds of comments. One of those comments from the chief operating officer at Shopify, which said directly, "You are hired. My DMs are open. Message me and I'll find you an internship." That's a pretty darn creative way to go about finding a job, and Julia Federin did just that. Now, I don't know if this is a paid or unpaid internship. I'm one of those old-fashioned guys that says, you know what, internships, there's nothing wrong with doing some unpaid work. I did one. Granted, it was 40 hours, but that was part of my college program. And you did 40 hours of unpaid internship work in order to get some experience for the job you one day wanted to hold. By the sounds of this, it appears as though the internship at Shopify would be paid. But either way, Julia Federin from the University of Waterloo takes that pitch to social media, gets 1 million views, thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, and one of those comments directly from the chief operating officer at Shopify, who said, "You are hired." Creative way of finding a job. Don't just show up with your resume and drop it off. Maybe you got to do this in order to find work in today's market. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the email. Thank you for being clearly such a loyal and intent listener. Dave's email to Mike at 570news.com. You still didn't get that job at 560 CFOS Owen Sound. I bet you Julia Federin could have helped back in the day. Julia taking to social media to apply essentially for an internship at Shopify. Her post gets more than 1 million views, and she gets the internship twice. 2 times. Madeline Hamilton at CFOS in Owen Sound rejected me outright. I'm not saying I didn't deserve it. Clearly I did. Madeline Hamilton knows what's what in this business, but I did not get my job that I applied for at CFOS in Owen Sound. How do you like that? Well, here's the thing. By not getting that job at CFOS in Owen Sound, those jobs, plural, that I applied for back in the day, I get to cover the Kitchener Rangers instead of the Owen Sound Attack. Nothing against the Owen Sound Attack. I love you, Grey County, and I love the Bayshore on a Saturday night during the hockey season. But if I were covering the Owen Sound Attack, my hockey season would be over. Instead, I get to go to Windsor tonight for a Game 7. And I cannot even express to you how excited I am for this. Game 7. This will be the 7th Game 7 of my... I have to go look back. Either way, the Kitchener Rangers are trying to become just the 6th team in OHL history to come back from a 3-0 series deficit and win the series. The Ottawa 67s did it back in 1988. The Windsor Spitfires did it in 2005 and 2010. In 2010, they did it against the Kitchener Rangers. In 2014, the Peterborough Petes did it. And in 2019, the Guelph Storm came back from 3-0 down and won the series. The Kitchener Rangers would like to join that rather exclusive club. And Paul Fixter and I will be on the air from the WFCU Center in Windsor tonight at 6:30 with your pregame show. Game 7, baby. Game day. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, there have been many headlines over the past year or so about the KW Symphony and how after decades of existence, it suddenly was no longer. Bankruptcy declared, the symphony still working its way back. But in the midst of all of it, 20 years strong now, is the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra. Its conductor, Sabatino Vaca, joins the program this morning. Sabatino, good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. 20 years of the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra. How does that sound to you?
It's, pardon the pun, music to my ears. It's been a great run, and hopefully many more years to look forward to as well.
What has made it so successful over these past 2 decades, Sabatino?
Well, great question. I think it's a combination of things. The orchestra is a very fun group to work with. It's a mixture of professional players, semi-pros, and community players, and everybody gets along, and we get great work done at rehearsals. We put together a variety of types of programs, genres, classical, pops, movie concerts. So it's a fun group to be part of, and very versatile with the things that we do. So we've got quite a wide appeal in terms of our audience base.
We talk an awful lot on the show about the arts and culture space and the challenges it faces from time to time, municipal funding being one of them, attendance being another, and specific to orchestras, symphony orchestras, as I mentioned at the outset. There was trouble with the KW Symphony financially, obviously. You talk about that broad spectrum of programming you offer, Sabatino, and yep. I wonder if that's what's required to keep orchestral music relevant to a modern audience.
It is a big challenge. A lot of it starts with education, and I think the education component plays a big part in nurturing the arts and the culture and the appreciation of the arts and culture in our communities. Without that kind of a backbone and support from educational sort of perspectives and feeding into future generations of arts and music lovers, my gosh, it would be such an uphill battle to get people interested later on in life. But starting with an educational component, especially in schools, is so important. There's such a heavy emphasis on sports, and not to take away from sports, but the arts play as critical a role in our day-to-day lives and our love of life that music contributes to, and having that appreciation for the arts, for the classical arts, and what it has to offer is huge.
I love that point about education, Sabatino. And I think back to my high school days and the late Mike Bergauer, who was a tremendous influence on aspiring musicians at my high school decades ago. And without that, you're right, it doesn't nurture that part of our soul, does it?
It's hard to connect, to classical music without it. It can be done. But like you say, you're very fond of a music teacher that you had. I get that kind of feedback all the time. I've never met anybody that has taken music lessons, even if it's for a year or 2 years and they lost interest. But I've never met anybody that's regretted taking those music lessons, even for a brief time. And it nurtures often a lifelong appreciation of the arts, and without it, my gosh, you don't hardly stand a chance.
It's a great point. This coming Saturday is a symphony orchestra performance, Youthful Exuberance. What can you tell us about it?
Well, that ties in exactly with what we're speaking about. So we've developed a partnership with Laurier University. They hold an annual concerto competition for their students. And so the top three winners of this year's competition will be performing a concerto with us or a concerto movement. And it's so great to give these youngsters an opportunity to perform with an orchestra, often for the very first time. It's an exciting opportunity for them. And I think it's great for the audience and the public to see that also, that, you know, there is a young generation of enthusiastic musicians hoping to make a career of music. And it's great to be able to feature them and show our support for what they're doing and encourage them on their paths.
What inspired you to get into music, pick up an instrument for the first time?
My parents were very musically inclined. There was always music in the home. I grew up in that kind of an environment, and I started piano lessons at a young age. When I first started university in a music program, I thought I knew it all. And what could these professors possibly teach me, kind of attitude that I had. Well, my piano teacher, the very first lesson, absolutely had me terrified and petrified to even touch the keyboard, because I realized how little I knew. And that really spurred me on to my God, that there's so much to learn and so much to discover. I realized how little I knew. And the paradox I find with music and the arts in general is the more you learn, the more you know, the more you realize how little you do know and how much more there is to learn.
This Saturday's Youthful Exuberance performance is going to be at the beautiful St. Peter's Lutheran Church on King Street East in Cambridge. Can we still get tickets, Sabatino?
Yes. Tickets can be ordered on our website, cambridgeorchestra.ca, and there will be some tickets available at the door as well. But the best way to do it is through our website, again, cambridgeorchestra.ca.
We will point people in that direction and then get their ears to that show on Saturday. Sabatino, here's to another 20 years with the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Sabatino Vaca, the conductor of the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra. A performance this Saturday called Youthful Exuberance. It will feature the Cambridge Youth Orchestra and the 2025 concerto winners from Wilfrid Laurier University. Doors at 7. And again, those doors at St. Peter's Lutheran Church, 810 King Street East in Cambridge. You can get tickets at cambridgeorchestra.ca. 20 years of the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra and going strong. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, there is another celebration in the community this weekend. Maybe you can take it in during the day and then enjoy the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra at night. We'll tell you about that celebration of a new year coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This coming Saturday, along with that lovely concert by the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra, it also happens to mark celebrations of the Bengali New Year. This celebration will take place at the St. Agatha Community Center. And here to tell us more about it is Partha Sarkar, who's with the Bangladesh Cultural Society. Partha, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
What happens on Saturday at the St. Agatha Community Center to mark the Bengali New Year?
Thank you. It's actually, as you said, it's a celebration of Bengali New Year. And interestingly, as I was also trying to tell that this is a celebration of New Year in many parts of South Asia originally. because it comes from its agrarian base. So the thing is actually back in South Asia, where we had been from, this is the harvesting time. And people have a lot of free time. They have their food, and it's very colorful. People are cheerful, happy, so they celebrate. And this is the beginning of the new year as well. In Bengali, the first month is Boishak. Usually it's the 14th of April or something like that. So we try to do it, we have to coincide it with the weekends and something so that the community can participate. And so that's why we are doing it in this Saturday. And the things that we are trying to do is actually we gather together, and that's the main part, the main spirit. And it is open for everybody, regardless of, any identities or anything else. Anyone can come and join us. It's a celebration of a good time, happy time. And the fact that, people will come together. There will be a cultural program where traditional scenes, dances, and everything else will be in performance. And there are also this traditional fair that we try to organize from our community members who bring their traditional dresses, articrafts and so foods that they make, the sort of things that we bring together. So this is how we celebrate our Bengali New Year festival here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And as you said, this is rightly happening on Saturday, the 26th of April.
I know, Partha, that a big part of your community is the student community. Many young people in our region are students originally from India. How are they able to participate on the weekend?
So there are students from all across South Asia, Bangladesh. The Bengali, you see that, in South Asia, there are many different languages are spoken. So Bengali is spoken mostly in Bangladesh and some parts of India as well, South Asia. And then, Bengali speaking people living in other parts of South Asia as well. So they come here, and as you say, the students, remember I was saying that usually the Bengali New Year is on the 14th of April. But here we try to celebrate it a little bit later and coinciding any weekend or something like that. One of the reasons is actually of the students, because I know that most of the students, this is also a very busy time, end of the semester. So that's why we try to organize this towards the end of April or something like that. So, and because a big chunk of our audience and the volunteers, members who are coming in are actually the student community. So they are participating in various ways. They are participating, some of them are actually volunteering us in terms of, organizing different things. And some of them are performing. Some of them are offering support to different, stalls that we are producing for the fair, the community fair that we are trying to organize. So, in various ways, the students are a very integral and a very lively part of our activities that we are trying to do during the Bengali New Year celebration.
Is there any cost, Partha, or can we just show up on Saturday and celebrate with you and learn more about the Bengali culture?
It used to be quite free. We have been organizing it for the last 12 years. So it used to be free, but then, everything has gone up, skyrocketed, and there are a lot of other costs associated, finding a big venue, with all necessary facilities and all of the things that we have to arrange, and these are not very cheap anymore. So we have started to, keep some, just sort of a small token entry fee or something like that. So those tickets are available either via Eventbrite, or you can actually get it on the event venue place where you will be if you go in person or something like that. But as I said, if there are students who are interested to volunteer, if there are someone who has issues, so we definitely offer free services as well. Free entry as well, in order to people to go there. But mostly it is ticketed in a sense that it's not. As I said, the ticket is a token price that we try to keep just to offset all the costs, because we are all volunteering here, and there are some costs associated to that.
Partha, I wish you a happy new year and a great celebration on the weekend. Thank you for joining the show this morning.
Thank you, Mike. And I invite everyone to come here and to join and celebrate with us the Bengali New Year Festival here in Kitchener-Waterloo on the 26th of April at St. Agatha Community Center. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Partha Sarkar is with the Bangladesh Cultural Society. The Bengali New Year celebrated this Saturday, St. Agatha Community Center on Erbs Road in St. Agatha, or St. Agatha, if you're one of those. You can be that way if you want to be that way. But we know Agatha Christie wrote the novels, not Agatha Christie. So it's St. Agatha and at the Community Center on Saturday, this coming, which is the 26th of April, 5 o'clock. And help ring in the Bengali New Year. Learn a little bit more about another one of the cultures that is well represented here in our fine region of Waterloo. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just a reminder that if you are interested in voting ahead of Election Day is next Monday, the 28th. If you want to cast your ballot before that, you can do so today up until, I believe it's 6 o'clock at your returning office. So it'll be on your voter information card. But that's the chance for you to cast your ballot early, like millions of other Canadians already have. I'm not convinced this necessarily indicates that there's going to be greater voter turnout for this election. I sure as heck hope there is. Really, if anything, it makes me wonder if we shouldn't actually schedule elections around holidays. Because I think the Easter weekend and the Good Friday holiday made it an easy opportunity for many people to get out and cast their ballot. Last time we saw advanced voting taken up with such great enthusiasm was back in 2015. Not because of sunny ways, but because the advanced voting happened on the Thanksgiving weekend. See how this works? We might be onto something here. Anyway, advanced polls were open over the weekend. You can still go to your returning office, cast a ballot, an early ballot today. And then it's voting day on Monday, April the 28th. Speaking of voting day and the election, housing is an issue. It's been discussed to some degree on the campaign trail. But what about affordable housing? And what really is genuinely affordable housing? A University of Waterloo professor aims to answer that question in a new documentary, and we're going to talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Let's talk housing, but in this case, genuinely affordable housing. And let's talk about it with somebody who knows more than one thing or two about it. Brian Doucette's an associate professor in the School of Planning at the University of Waterloo, joins the show this morning. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Always great to be on your show.
It's always great to have these conversations with you because I love the work that you do and the time that you invest in it. The latest effort is a documentary, the full length of which is coming out later this year. But why did you choose this route to tell the story?
Yeah, there's not too many academics who go and spend 2 years making a documentary.
Exactly.
Yeah, but housing is such an important topic, and it's such a central topic to public planning, policy, and political conversations, not just academic ones. So I was just at an academic conference in Vancouver last week and hearing lots of great discussion and lots of great insights, but those are not the conversations that really move the needle publicly, right? Great ideas, and of course we all, as academic researchers, we're all researching and contributing to those academic debates. But if you don't have a way to translate that knowledge to a broader audience, especially on a topic like housing, you're only going to have so much impact. And so I wanted to do something that was going to take both the research that I've done over the last many years here in Waterloo and across Canada, but also the really important work and ideas that are coming out of academic research and translate that into something that's much more accessible, that hopefully a wide audience, not just policymakers and politicians, but the general public will watch and find insightful and hopefully maybe challenge some conventional thinking about housing.
I have assumed, Brian, that the challenges that we face in the housing space here in the region of Waterloo are similar to the challenges being faced in the housing sector across the country. You've just talked about being at a conference in Vancouver. Is that the case? I mean, is what we're seeing here really what we're seeing in community after community across this country?
Look, there's always going to be differences based on a local context, right? So in Waterloo, one of the big things that we have is we are so close to the Toronto region that we are seeing prices escalate because people are moving further out from the GTA. You don't have that in Windsor. You don't have that in Halifax in the same way. But broadly, the same issues are similar and driving this housing problem that we're in. And I would say a lot of the mainstream solutions, which are simply to say, hey, let's have the market build as much housing as possible, are found throughout the country. And one of the things I wanted to do in the film is sort of debunk that myth that we can simply build our way out of this simply by enabling more condo development, more private sector housing development. Like, that's never worked, particularly when it comes to providing housing for people on low and very low incomes and increasingly moderate incomes. And it's not really going to work now. And so I wanted to sort of debunk that myth, which is not just in Canada. This idea of just build, it goes on around the world, but also come up with some ideas that do work, that do make a difference. Again, at a housing conference like I was just at, there's disagreement, there's debate, but there's a lot of broad consensus about what really needs to be done, and those kind of ideas don't always make it into mainstream discussions about housing. What does need to be done? Well, there's a few things. First of all, we need to really think beyond what the market is capable of doing. Again, the market's not going to build our way out of this. We need market housing. We need all kinds of housing. But to simply say, hey, let's just unleash the cranes, that's not going to work. We need to think beyond the market. We need to think about things like public land very differently. So what happens now typically is a city or a local municipality or province or whatever has a piece of surplus land. It's sold to the highest bidder, typically a condo developer, who will then build market rate condos. Yes, you get more housing supply, but that doesn't lead to the kind of supply that we need. So we have to think about using these public assets in ways in which we're getting housing outcomes that the market is unwilling or unable to build. And there's several examples that I talk about in the film, including the YW project on Blockline Road right here in Kitchener that do that. We also need to think about protecting and preserving the existing affordable housing that we already have, and the existing housing that is affordable to people on low and moderate incomes. So between 2011 and 2021, Canada lost more than 500,000 units that rented at under $750 a month, right, that were affordable to people earning a minimum wage or living wage. Those units, most of them are still there, but because we have very weak rent control rules, we have very few tenant protections across the country, we've lost a lot of that housing supply that is affordable. So we have to be thinking much more proactively about how do we preserve and protect what we already have. And again, there are inspiring examples across the country that we talk about and we visit in this film. I didn't want to make a doom and gloom film. You need to obviously sketch out the problem. But I really wanted to show that actually if we are able to see what's happening, there's a lot of really inspiring things already going on in Canada that are really getting to the heart of why housing is expensive and how it can be made genuinely affordable. I want to go deeper into that idea of genuinely affordable housing, but I'm running up against the clock. Do you have a little bit more time that you can stay with me? I'm good, yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm just going to put you on hold for a moment, and we'll come back and continue this, okay? Okay. Thanks so much, Brian. Brian Doucette is an associate professor in the School of Planning at the University of Waterloo. His documentary, Thinking Beyond the Market, a film about genuinely affordable housing. So what is that? And are we hearing anything during this election campaign that gives Brian hope? We'll continue the conversation here on the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Brian Doucette is an associate professor in the School of Planning at the University of Waterloo. He has put together a documentary, Thinking Beyond the Market, a film
about genuinely affordable housing. And I wanted to drill in on that a little more, Brian. I'm not sure there is, in fact, I think I am sure. There is not one answer to this, but how do we define housing that is genuinely affordable?
So there is a fairly common definition that we have used traditionally, and that is for tenants, that housing is considered to be affordable if it is less than 30% of your before-tax income. And that's a pretty standard definition, and that's been a definition for a long, long time. And we can argue, and again, in academic conferences, we might argue about the merits of exactly where that number is, but that has been the idea of what constitutes affordable housing. So the rent that you pay is related to your income. Now, when we talk about affordable housing in a broader sense, and we talk about new affordable housing being built, particularly through the private sector, through things like inclusionary zoning or what have you, that definition isn't used. The definition of affordable housing, whenever you talk about a new condo project or a new development is going to have a certain number of affordable housing units, that affordability is measured as a ratio of market rent. And it's generally considered to be 80% of market rent, right? So if market rent is $2,000 for a one-bedroom apartment, the quote-unquote affordable, and I do use those quotation marks deliberately, would be $1,600. Now, if that same unit were to be affordable on the traditional way that we would measure it, a person would have to make 3 times that much per month. So we do have these very different interpretations of what affordable housing is. And unfortunately, in housing policy now, we have very little that reflects this long-standing, a third, 30% of your before-tax income, and it's all this market rate. And that's why a lot of the affordable housing that we see getting built, again, quote-unquote affordable housing, isn't real affordable housing, especially for people who need it. I have a great quote in the film from Carolyn Weitzman, who's one of the brilliant housing researcher based out of Ottawa, who says, we're not building affordable housing, where the private sector is only building fake affordable housing, which is market rate and not really affordable to people who need it.
Have you heard anything over the last many weeks, 4 or 5 weeks of this election campaign, that gives you optimism, Brian?
Yeah, I have, actually. There are a few things, and some of it will be in what actually happens, right? It's easy to talk a good game, but what's going to happen in detail? I think the Liberals' idea of having the federal government get back into the business of building genuinely affordable housing is very promising. I think the idea to leverage public land to build that affordable housing, again, is very promising. The devil will be in the detail in terms of what that looks like. If it is, we're going to build this housing affordably, make it affordable, and then sell it off, and then that affordability kind of ends with the first person who acquires it, and then it's market rate housing after that, we're not going to see long-term affordability. But if we are building a supply of houses that is going to remain affordable in perpetuity, not just for the people living in them now, but the people living in them decades, generations from now, that's a great initiative. So still some questions about what that looks like, but I think there's a lot of promise in that. I also think the NDP talking about rent control is really important. We need to have a conversation about rent control. Rent control is a provincial responsibility. However, in the 1970s, when we had very high inflation in Canada, the federal government stepped in and basically said, provinces, bring in rent control. We need it. We need to keep housing costs in check. The provinces all brought in, or most of them brought in, rent control. And in the intervening 50 years, most of that rent control has been eroded. So again, coming back to my earlier point, we're losing a lot of that housing that already is affordable. So there's some promise, and it will remain to be seen, whoever forms the next government, what kind of election campaigns then are put into practice.
Are we going to be treated to any sort of gala premiere at the Princess or somewhere when this documentary is ready?
We are. We are putting the finishing touches on it now. I'm working with some great editors. I've done a lot of the editing work myself. I didn't know how to do this, so I've been, learning on the job, which has been really fun, and sort of scripting this out and editing this. But I'm working with a musician right now who's actually devising some original music that's going to go along with the film that'll enhance the messaging that we're trying to convey. So we're in that phase now, really putting the final touches on. And, we're going to do a big public screening here in KW, probably one down in Cambridge as well, hopefully one in Guelph and other communities. And definitely when we have our sort of local Waterloo region premiere, Mike, I'd love to come back on the show and tell you more about it, and hopefully get a number of your listeners coming out to watch it.
It's a date. I'm a fan of the medium, and I think it's a great way to tell the story. So kudos to you for this and all the work that you've long done. We've had many a conversation. This is just the most recent. And yes, we'll have you back when it's time for that premiere. And thanks for the time again this morning, Brian. Really appreciate it.
No problem. If anyone wants to watch the trailer, you can watch it on housingfilm.ca.
Housingfilm.ca.
Yeah, simple website to remember. We've got a trailer up there, and we'll have much more information about screenings as we arrange them later in the year.
Sounds great. Brian, thanks again for being here this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Brian Doucette is an associate professor in the School of Planning at the University of Waterloo. Housingfilm.ca. You can watch the trailer there. I have. That led to this conversation. Well, and a little birdie by the name of Rob Deutschman pointed me in this direction. But Brian Doucette's been doing great work in this space for quite some time, and the documentary film about genuinely affordable housing, Thinking Beyond the Market, will premiere later this year. Just coincidentally, the email in my inbox from the Conservative Party of Canada today does talk about housing and building 2.3 million homes. That's what the Conservatives are pledging to do by axing taxes to save $100,000 per home, selling off federal land and getting gatekeepers out of the way to speed up building. Remember earlier when we talked about the gatekeepers preventing a water fountain from being installed in Cambridge, a public drinking fountain? Anyway, it takes a lot. There are layers of red tape that I think could be reduced. Anyway, housingfilm.ca. Check out the trailer for yourself there. And we'll have Brian back on when it's time for the big premiere of his documentary film about genuinely affordable housing. We're going to keep it in the vein of the upcoming federal election and introduce you to another one of the local candidates seeking your vote. You'll hear from her coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In an effort to provide you with as much information as possible leading into next Monday's election, we vote on Monday the 28th. Our reporter, Justine Fraser, has reached out to every one of our local candidates with an offer. Just come on the show and tell us about yourself. You'll answer 3 questions. Why are you running? What experience do you bring to the role? And what do you pledge to do for the people in your riding if they elect you to office? Here are the answers to those questions from Helene Chow, who's running for the NDP in Waterloo.
Well, short answer is the world was getting a lot scarier, and I wanted to start fighting to make it better. The more long answer is that as a young professional in this area, I was directly experiencing the increased pressures of the cost of living. I've had my rent go up year over year with no signs of slowing, and I was losing hope of ever owning a home. Everywhere I looked, I saw people working harder than ever, but falling further and further behind. I'm also a passionate advocate for the environment, and I've really seen the inaction on climate change as a failing to protect the future for Canadians and as a failure to create a green economy where Canadian workers can lead globally. I've also witnessed the rise of attacks against our fundamental rights and freedom, whether it's increasing access to abortion or protecting the rights of marginalized people. I felt the need to get involved to make sure that we kept moving forward instead of going back.
What experience do you bring to the role?
Kind of list these off one by one, but I'll start with the fact that I'm passionate. I grew up in Ottawa, and as early as middle school, I was attending women's marches on Parliament Hill, baking cookies to raise money to protect endangered species, and planting trees wherever I could find space. I came to Waterloo to do my PhD, and I took every chance I could get to improve the student community. I took leadership roles in unionization efforts, led my department's graduate student association, and started women in engineering committees. Progressive politics and environmental activism are a part of who I am. I'm also qualified. I spent almost 10 years in university studying environmental engineering while remaining engaged in politics and my local community. And after graduating, I joined Environment and Climate Change Canada as an engineer to contribute to environmental policy at a national level. I'm not scared of hard work, and I've got the skills and experience to make real change happen. And lastly, I understand the struggles of people living in Waterloo. As a young Canadian, I understand the hardships of the rising cost of living, whether it's to save for our first home or just to make your first month's rent. I've experienced the stress of having to rely on healthcare when I needed it most, and felt the fear of inaction on climate change and growing economic and geopolitical instability. I understand that there's a lot to do, but I don't believe in using those fears as an excuse for cutting essential services we all rely on. And that's why I'm sort of running with the NDP.
And that is Helene Chow, who is running in Waterloo as the NDP candidate. To get more on this upcoming federal election on our website, kitchener.citynews.ca. I'm going to send you to the news center now for an update. And then, what is the Yellow Moon Mouse campaign and how does it help raise funds for childhood cancer research? That's the story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Well, I've got my copy of the latest. It's Midge to the Fire Rescue, and this one is written by Logan Scheer, who is the grandson of the gentleman who's in studio with us this morning. Dennis Scheer is here. Good friend of the program, good friend of the community, and the man behind the Yellow Moon Mouse Children's Campaign, raising money for childhood cancer research. Mr. Scheer, good morning, sir.
Hey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing just fine. Not as well as your friend, though, that won $17,000 at a Kitchener Rangers 50-50.
Yeah, no kidding. That was quite the gift. While we start this show, I just want to put one little shout out. Can I?
Yes, you can.
I think I emailed you about it today.
Did you?
There's a gentleman and his wonderful wife who really supports our organization, and he was one of the first people that ever donated to our charity. And unfortunately, the team we can't mention.
That's right. There's a hockey team we can't mention, Jessica. You'll understand this if you get to know Dennis and I better.
I have an idea.
I know today he's feeling blue and seeing red. So, Daryl Fletcher, thank you for everything you do for us. But, we do feel a little sad.
No, we don't. Chef D, as he's better known, is a Leafs fan at heart, I promise. The Jessica I referenced is Jessica Hill, who is the executive director of the Guelph Wish Fund for Children. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
How'd you get tied up with a character like this?
Well, on a personal side, my daughter passed away from cancer 3 years ago. And we've been raising funds for Team Addie for sarcoma research for sick kids for the last 3 years, raised over $500,000. And this gentleman over here approached me. He wanted to come to our event. And he's been supporting ever since. And then full circle, I joined the Guelph Wish Fund for Children as the executive director. And I met him. I didn't realize he was supporting us there too. So this man's very generous and supports a lot of people for a great cause. So we're very thankful from the Wish Fund and all aspects for donating his money towards cancer research. Thank you, that he raises from his books.
It is so incredible. That Team Addie amount, that $500,000 over 3 years.
Yes.
Incredible.
It is incredible.
How do you do that?
Oh, she inspired, she wrote the story at Sick Kids wanting to fundraise more for the kids, and she's the inspiring story. If you had met her, so we run a 3-on-3 basketball tournament and a concert with Attitude in the fall. And through those two events and third party, we just kind of just keep it going. We're going to keep it going.
It's incredible. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. It's a great and very inspirational story. Speaking of stories, Dennis, you started with the children's stories. Yep. And now your grandkids are involved as well. But can you take us back to the beginning of your work and what inspired you to the Yellow Moon Mouse Children's Campaign?
Well, it all started in 2018 when Logan got leukemia. And we were doing fundraisers, and the books weren't even in the picture at the time. And we were raising money for the family and for childhood cancer, and then COVID shut us down. Well, while Logan was in the hospital, he wanted his favorite story put into a book. And so the first story was A Shadow in the Candle, which we put into a book, and then the boys came to me and said, we can't do fundraisers, so why don't we sell the book and raise money? And that's how it all started. So all the stories that we made up at Storytime, which I kept and logged on the computer, now are starting to come to life because we did The Shadow in the Candle, and then it just went on from there. And then the Sugar Shack Mystery, as you know, and then they went and got themselves a rescue dog, Midge, and they wanted to do a series on her, and so now the Midge episodes have started.
Which is Midge to the Fire Rescue, the book that you just brought me this morning, and you said another is due in a month.
Yeah, that's book number 4. Well, the one we're doing in a month, because all the markets I do and all the libraries, as a matter of fact, I just got into all the libraries across Canada, except for Quebec and PEI. So now we're right across Canada in the libraries. And the one thing I'm finding out quite a bit is I'm being asked a lot for Tiny Tot books, 2 to 5-year-olds.
Okay.
And so, because these are geared for about 5 to 10-year-olds. And so our first kiddie book is coming out in about a month. And that's going to open up another big market for us. And hopefully it's going to increase the revenue that we're going to be able to generate for all these charities. This year we're giving out 9,000. Last year we gave out 7. And I told you my goal was 9 this year. And we hit 9.
It's incredible. And I've seen this man. Well, yeah, Jessica,
Fantastic.
you have too. I mean,
yes,
yeah.
Fantastic, yes. And Logan is also a recipient of the Guelph Wish Fund for Children. We granted him a wish, which was really another full circle moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're still playing in their treehouse.
Aw.
You mentioned the third-party events that Team Addie is a part of, the concert with Attitude and the 3-on-3 basketball. How can folks support the ongoing work that you do?
Oh, gosh. They can support us just by visiting our website, teamaddie.ca. And they can come check out our tournament on July 12th at University of Guelph.
Good one to know.
And if anyone wants to support the children that we have at the Guelph Wish Fund for Children, guelphwishfund.com. And there we grant wishes to children in Guelph and Wellington County, 19 and under.
guelphwishfund.com. How does that work? Who is eligible for one of those wishes?
So children who are battling a severe medical illness, a rare and debilitating syndrome or life-altering injury under the age of 19, they can apply through our website, and then we grant wishes, which is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And so Logan wanted a treehouse, Dennis.
They had their choice, a trip, a treehouse, or whatever they wanted, and they wanted a treehouse, so they had a treehouse built in the backyard, and they still use it today. It comes with all the bells and whistles, slides, climbing ropes, and rock wall, and the whole ball of wax.
It's all about moments of happiness for those kids, right? So if we can provide that little moments of joy, then that's what we're about to do.
You read my mind. I can't think of work that would be much more fulfilling than the work that you're able to do through the Guelph Wish Fund.
It's very fulfilling, and for me personally, to show the empathy towards those families that I have a little sense of what they're going through. It is very rewarding, and it's an honor and privilege to be here.
Dennis, you talked about raising $7,000 last year, setting a goal of $9,000 this year, the markets that you're at. I've seen you in action. This is no small feat that you have undertaken here to sell. Like you hustle to sell these books. Yeah,
last year I did 75 markets. And that's weekends pretty much. And then in my spare time, I tried to hit like the St. Jacobs Farmers Market, and then I'll go to Erin to the markets through the week. When I get a couple days open, I'll try and hit those markets as well. So I'm up around 75, almost 80 markets a year, which is a little bit.
A little bit.
It's a lot.
It is. I see you shaking your head, Jessica, because you've seen it in action too, I'm sure.
I have, yeah. I mean, he's always the first one to reach out to want to come to our event, and I see him like just online how much he hustles and always supporting great causes, and he spreads the love everywhere. So we're very appreciative of the Guelph Wish Fund and Team Addie.
How are you able to do the work that you do at the Guelph Wish Fund for Children? I'm sure donations are the large part of it, if not the entire part.
Absolutely, yeah. Spreading awareness, just because there's families that maybe don't know about us. Again, we support children in Guelph and Wellington County, so we cover a larger radius. And of course, donations. We're strictly run by community donations. So community partners, anyone that reaches out, I'm happy to have a conversation with and see how they can further help.
Dennis, how can we learn more about the Yellow Moon Mouse Children's Campaign?
Well, I'm proud to say that Blake just built our website.
Oh, very good. Very good. I've been waiting for that.
Yeah.
13 years old. I don't know how he did it. And he says, Papa, I'm going to build you a website. Oh, okay. And he built us a website. So now we have YellowMoonMouseChildren'sCampaign.com.
All right. YellowMoonMouseChildren'sCampaign.com.
And you can order our books online now. They're right there. You'll get them overnight. They come through M&T, or Volumes Publishing in Waterloo, which is affiliated with M&T Printing, and where we get all our books done. And yeah, we're on the site. All you got to do is go in, plug in, and you can get the whole collection if you like. And I'd like to do something right now.
You didn't clear this with me first, Dennis. I saw somebody sneak in the door and hand over some papers.
Listen, without this lady behind the glass, I could not do what I do. She gets all the praise in the world because...
Listen, I've talked to her, Dennis, and she says I'm happy to have him out of the house on weekends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's either with a fishing pole or a book.
Exactly.
But right now, what I'd like to do, Farwell for hire, here's $1,000.
Well,
to kick off your campaign.
Dennis, thank you very much.
Jessica, Guelph Wish Fund, $1,000.
Oh, my goodness
and
gracious.
Team Addie, $1,000.
goodness
There you go.
Wow, Dennis.
It's like Christmas in April here,
oh,
Jessica.
Oh, my goodness gracious, Dennis. This is amazing.
Which, by the way, April is Cancer Awareness Month. So
it is.
That's another reason why we're here, to bring that awareness to people and how important it is to, think about all this stuff and try and help and do what you can do to help support the cause. Because
we have many families that we serve at the Wish Fund with cancer, so thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that need the support. So we're glad that you have us on the air doing this.
Well, and I'm very appreciative, Jessica. I don't know if Dennis filled you in on the way here, but our family also has a charitable cause that supports research into terminal disease, and we want to fund that research so that families still living with it today have better outcomes and hopefully eventually find a cure. So $1,000 like this is a heck of a start. Amazing. We do our fundraising every year in May. This is a great start to our campaign. And I'm sure $1,000 is no small drop in the bucket for you.
It's amazing. Every little bit helps and puts us towards our goal of helping the kids we want to help.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to remind you of those websites. It's Team Addie, ADDY.
Yes.
TeamAddie.ca and the GuelphWishFund.com.
Correct.
Okay, and that's where we can help have more of those wishes granted to children under the age of 19. And Yellow Moon Mouse Children's Campaign.com. We got it all there. And Midge to the Fire Rescue is the latest book in the series.
It's the latest book. And yeah, the whole collection is there. You can get it. And the new book is posted, coming soon. So.
All right. Dennis, thank you so much for your generosity.
You're welcome.
And keep up the great work.
Thank you. And
Jessica,
good luck tonight, eh?
Oh, good. He thinks I'm playing the game. But no, I'll take it. All the good luck vibes you want to send my way.
Well,
big game for the Rangers.
Come on, you're part of the team. Eh?
I'm the loudest part of the team, yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure the boys in blue tonight are the other boys in blue. Chef D, are you listening?
I hope Chef D is listening. We'll talk about the Maple Leafs. I want a night like tonight, exactly like I had on Sunday. Thank you very much. A Rangers win and a Leafs win. It's perfect. All right. Jessica, keep up the great work at the Guelph Wish Fund for Children, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Oh, my goodness gracious. Ask me if this day could possibly get any better. The sun is shining. It's game day, baby. Game 7 day. And my good friend Dennis Shear with the Yellow Moon Mouse Children's Campaign just stopped by with his latest book, Midge to the Fire Rescue. I don't know how Dennis gets the energy that he has, but he has been doing these books for the better part of 7 years now because his grandson, Logan, was diagnosed with leukemia. I'm really happy to report that Logan is feeling 100% fine today and now even contributing to the children's books that his papa, his grandpa Dennis Shear, writes. And Dennis does all of this, though, with a charitable component to it. Everything goes to charity. And we just had Jessica Hill in studio with us, who's the executive director of the Guelph Wish Fund for Children. And she lost a daughter to cancer and now runs Team Addie fundraisers. They've raised $500,000 over the past several years. And Dennis contributes to that charity, and he dropped off a $1,000 check for our Farwell for Hire fundraiser, which gets underway in earnest in, oh my goodness gracious, a little over a week. How is it already the end of April? And I've got so much on my mind because I'm thinking, well, not only do we still have an hour and a bit of this show today, but then I'm off to Windsor for that aforementioned Game 7. Game day, baby. The Kitchener Rangers and the Windsor Spitfires tonight. And that is my immediate concern. But thank you so much to Dennis and the Yellow Moon Mouse Children's Campaign for the $1,000 donation to Farwell for Hire. The month of May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month. That's when we do the Farwell for Hire campaign. In a nutshell, it works like this. I will work for you. You name the task. I fulfill it. Remember who you're talking to here, okay? I ain't no tradesperson. I'm pretty good manual labor. That's about where it goes. But whatever it is, or maybe you've got a business that could use some support, and I could show up and spend some time there. And I still have to do this job, but after I do this job, every day through the month of May, I'll go out and do your job. And in exchange for me doing that job, my time is really valuable, don't you know? I ask for a donation to the Farwell for Hire fundraiser in support of cystic fibrosis research. If you don't know, I lost two of my sisters to cystic fibrosis many years ago now, but I began this campaign in their memory, and we continue to raise those important funds that gets us closer and closer to a cure for cystic fibrosis, because we want to see families in our community who are still living with this disease today to have better outcomes. We are still not yet at a cure, but we are extending and improving lives, and that matters a lot. So to that end, and connected to the big hockey game tonight, my goodness gracious, if the Rangers win, and I sure as heck hope they do, like I have got all of my energy into a Rangers win tonight. Coming back from a 3-0 series deficit, trying to be just the 6th team in OHL history to come all the way back and win. I can't wait. They keep playing. It's going to get interesting. I'm going to have a busy schedule into next week, starting the Farwell for Hire fundraiser, doing some OHL hockey playoff games. But I'm here for it. Like, keep me as busy as possible, please. We are having, my beloved might get upset with me for this, but I'm just going to blurt it out because they gave me a microphone. Next Thursday night, which is the 1st of May, we're having a little party at the museum in downtown Kitchener. I'm inviting you, even though our guest list is getting really, 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 really full. But if you visit farwellforhire.com, that's Farwell, my name, the number 4, hire.com, you can get a ticket for that party. We're going to have some music. We're going to have Something's Always Flying. It's going to be playing. Village Caterer has provided food for us. We're just going to have a good old time. There's going to be a silent auction, great prizes, unreal prizes. We're going to raise some money to go along with this $1,000 that Dennis Shear just gave me for the campaign. We're going to get the campaign started in style at the museum in downtown Kitchener next Thursday night. There won't be a game. They're going to play on Wednesday and Friday or something. It'll all work out, and you're invited to the party. And then if you want some work done through the month of May, you just drop me a note, and we'll get you into the schedule. And we'll raise some money for cystic fibrosis research, okay? I also can let you in on this. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you yet, but again, if I'm going to be in trouble at home with my beloved, I'll get in trouble with management here at the station. I have an announcement to make next Thursday on this show right at 9 o'clock. So please make a note. Make sure you're with me first thing next Thursday morning. I think you'll like the announcement. It's all connected to the Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. And we're going to have ourselves a good old time raising some money, okay? We're going to have ourselves a good old time at the Kitchener Rangers game tonight, too. Pre-game coverage, 6:30 right here on your home of Rangers hockey, 570 News Radio. And your 12 o'clock talkback hour is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I already have a Kyle on the line with me, and I want you to keep him company. Heck, I want you to keep me company, and I want you to make it as easy for me as possible in my final hour of the show before I skedaddle. I got to hustle. OPP, leave me alone on the 401. No, we got lots of time to get to Windsor, but the final hour of the show is your hour. You make the call. We answer. You start the conversation. The talkback hour is coming up. Join Kyle on the phone lines on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
The answer to the question is no. Region of Waterloo's email around the region asks me if I'm ready for e-scooter season. If you want to get my chaps a chafin', just talk to me about e-scooters. Go ahead, because what's a really good idea is to put people with no license and really no regard for rules of the Highway Traffic Act and put them out there on the road zipping around on these e-scooters. That's a great idea. Anyway, I'll just leave that over there. It's your talkback hour, but when I got asked the question, I thought I'd answer it. Are you ready for e-scooter season? No, I'm not. I hope e-scooter season ends quickly and then goes away forever. I kind of wish the same thing of winter. Of course, that doesn't happen. So maybe e-scooter season's just going to keep coming back. You know how this works, right? You make the call, 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. And if you try one line, you can't get through, just try one of the other ones. They'll ring for you. That's how it works. And we'll move through as many calls as we can during the talkback hour because we love hearing from you. Kyle, second-time caller Kyle. Welcome to the show. Good afternoon.
You ruined my own introduction, or that's now I'm lost in thought. I said I was bad at live radio the first time, and you said I was doing well, but yeah. Well, long story short, or I'm going to take off speaker here, or am I on speaker here? Yes, I am. Is this better, or can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine, thank you.
Well, sorry for the abrupt introduction, but I basically called to talk about you referencing, or I watch Family Guy, so I don't know how to turn a phrase, but you said turn the other testicle, and I just laughed so hard because, yeah, and then I thought about it for 4 days over Easter, which is topical to a religious phrase.
Wait a minute. Testicles are topical to Easter? Is that what
when you said turn the other testicle during Game 4 of the
I did. I remember saying
when he got jabbed, and he did turn the other testicle, and now they got Game 7. If he would have taken a major penalty, they might not have gotten this far.
There you go.
And it's topical because Jesus said turn the other cheek. So
that's right, exactly.
So I mean, and I've been thinking about it for 5 days now because, you know when you said it, so I don't need to prove it. But I mean. Anyways, and then as for the Billy Madison, I got no Billy Madison references today, other than saying that I'll donate some money to Mike Farwell for Hire Cystic Fibrosis for your sisters. And I will come to the party if I'm available, but I don't need to, or I have some toys I can give away or donate. We can have a Kyle auction.
A Kyle auction.
Yeah. that I've acquired that I don't want or need, or both, or I'm keeping some stuff, and also, I lost my train of thought. But it was mostly the testicle reference I wanted to bring up because it's been 5 days now. So,
all right, Kyle, I appreciate it. I think I think that's 4 times, maybe 5. And listen, testicles are testicles. Some people eat bull testicles as a delicacy, if I'm not mistaken. I did bring it up, and then I made reference to the number of times I said testicle on a hockey broadcast. Kyle is absolutely right. It was Game 4 at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium last Wednesday night. And we talked about how important it was for the Rangers to stay disciplined, stay out of the penalty box, turn the other cheek, as it were. And I believe it was Luke Ellenis who got jabbed, speared, whatever, in a very tender area. And he did not respond by doing something back to the other player. So I said he didn't turn the other cheek. He turned the other testicle. And that gave Kyle something to think about all through the Easter weekend, all through the family gatherings when the Rangers were winning games 5 and 6 in the series. And now we've got ourselves a 3-3 series going back to Windsor tonight for a winner-take-all one-game showdown, Game 7. By the way, Kyle, if you'd like to make that donation to Farwell for Hire, you are more than welcome to do so. We are more than grateful for your support. You can go to farwellforhire.com. Farwell, the number 4, hire.com. Make a donation right through there. It'll take you directly to our fund with the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, and you'll get a receipt for anything over $20. Appreciate you. Nate Dogg, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Hey, Mike, it'd be prairie oysters that you were referring to as bull testicles.
All right, then.
Yeah. Hey, I just had my third and final debate last night. Sorry if my dog's coming through in the background. It was a very interesting experience. This is something I'm definitely never going to forget. And I just wanted to thank you and your show for all the information that you provided me over the years to have topical conversations with people. And I wanted to thank a lot of your regular callers as well for giving me a lot of information that I was able to use in debate time. John would be an example, the gentleman who he and his wife were separated in long-term care.
Jim, yes.
Jim.
The McLeods, yep.
Yes, the McLeods, yeah. And even Preston Paul, I'm pretty sure he'd be proud of some of the stuff I had to say on gun control.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you so much, and onward and upward, my friend.
All right, Nathan, thank you very much, and kudos to you for stepping up and putting your name forward in this federal election. Remember, Election Day is Monday, the 28th. Get out and vote. You can still cast an early ballot at your returning office today. After that, you got to wait till voting day. I'm still on that undecided part, I think. I don't know. I waffle. I go back. I go forth. I go to. I go fro. You can call us here on the Talkback Hour and start a conversation of your own, whether you're decided or undecided. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every day from noon until 1, we open the phone lines for the Talkback Hour. Your chance to weigh in on a topic we discussed earlier today, or anything else that's on your mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us. We want to hear about it, so spread the knowledge, share the wealth. Rory is with us on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon, Rory.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. How pumped are you today?
Buddy, you have no idea. I'm having such a hard time concentrating since I got up this morning.
I don't blame you. I mean, kudos to the boys. Thought they were down and out, but they kept their chins up, their elbows up, and here we are in Game 7, so anything can happen. So that's amazing. I wanted to touch base with you on one of the major stories, certainly on the City News website or the app today. I know you've talked a lot about the speed cameras, which generally speaking, Mike, I'm in favor of. I know you're adamantly against it. I think there's a time and a place for them. But the big story today, I guess, is the additional funding that the regional police have received to beef up their use of CCTV cameras and the automated license plate readers. And I'm kind of wondering, Mike, what your thoughts are, or if it's something you plan to discuss in the future, maybe next time the chief is in studio with you, about the continued expanding use of CCTV camera use and whether or not it's impeding our rights and actually preventing the crime that it says it's meant to do. Because, I guess really you could consider it to be just another subset of tools like the speed camera to address different areas of crime. So I thought I'd get your take on the CCTV camera expansion.
It's a great question, Rory, and I appreciate it. I should have made a note to myself. I'm trying to do better at that, making little notes so I can talk about the things that are in the news that are of interest to me and I think might be of interest to you. And I'm with Rory on this one. Just quickly on the speed camera part, the thing that gets me, like, you're right, we shouldn't speed. And if we are to believe then that speeding is such a problem that we need this many speed cameras, okay. But, and my big but is around school zones first and foremost, stop with the ridiculous limits outside of school hours. But the other part of it is the incredible amount of revenue that's being generated. We're talking $4 million plus that's been brought in by the speed cameras in Wellington County in just 3 months. 1.5 million goes to the county. Where's the rest of it? This is a cottage industry now. There's a company that gets paid out for administrating or installing or whatevering the cameras. And like my traffic violations are not meant to pay that company and their employees' salaries, in my opinion. On the closed circuit television, the CCTV cameras, first of all, yes, Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell will be here 2 weeks from today. That'll be the first Tuesday of May. You're ding-dang right, we're going to talk about this. And I have some mixed feelings about it. I wonder if it isn't a little bit like the controversy we had around carding back in the day, if you will, because the cameras will be installed in areas where presumably there's a higher level of crime being committed or crimes being reported. So are we surveilling certain neighborhoods, and what do we know about those neighborhoods and why they're under surveillance? So I like the fact that these are data-driven decisions, right? A lot of calls from this area, a lot of crime reported in this area. Let's put a camera in this area. But I can already hear the criticisms and concerns raised. And yeah, do I love the fact that Big Brother is watching in so many other areas that I'll be walking in my community? I'm innocent, I tells you. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Will it lead to a reduction in crime? That will also be interesting. Great questions raised by Rory. And if you want to weigh in on it during the Talkback Hour today, by all means, let us know. Tom, you're next on Talkback. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Mike. As far as housing, none of them is working. They're all lying. They can't do it. They're all lying. They're just putting numbers.
What will work?
Pardon?
What will work? If none of the politicians are...
To get the prices down, you have to have an economic downturn that goes down to zero. That's the only way. There is no other way.
You want,
they're all lying.
You want like basically what happened in the States when you can buy, like people were walking away from their homes because they couldn't pay the mortgage. They just walked out, left the keys behind.
No, I'm just saying that's the only way. Like there's no amount of money. They're all lying. Nothing is going.
But I'm asking. I'm asking you, what is the way though? And you're saying
no. There is no way.
There's no way. Okay, we're never going to make housing more affordable.
You can't spend $1 million to build a house and then sell it for $200,000. It's stupid. They're lying to you. They're just pretending that they can do. The other thing I was going to say, Australia isn't taking any more students from India whatsoever because they've been coming on false arrangements and they've been cracking. That's why Canada has to do the same thing. Like look in Brampton. You got all these immigration consultants. We can't afford them.
All right, Tom. Speaking of cottage industries, right? Immigration consultants and a lot of people doing some pretty sketchy work in the space of, oh, yeah, I'll help you get your permanent residency in this country or that country. And Tom says they're all lying to us about housing. There's no way to make it more affordable. Whew, we got some things to chew on here on the Talkback Hour as we continue. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I think the police use of CCTV cameras has got people intrigued. Phone lines getting busy. Alex, you're next on Talkback. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I just want to go on the...
I'm sorry, Alex, I cannot... Are you underwater?
Yeah, no, I can hear you now.
Oh, I can hear you now. That's the important part.
Yeah, the affordable housing thing, I just... It should never, ever, ever be discussed without talking about why there's a massive elephant in the room. Everyone knows it. It was a mass immigration into this country by the 5, 6, 7 millions, and there's no place for them to live. That is the crust of the problem. That's the whole problem. 95% of the problem.
No, it's not 95% of the problem. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so it's 90 then.
It's not 90 either. It's part of the problem, but it's not. It's not. Alex, what about people that speculate? What about people that are real estate investors? Okay, well then.
No. There's huge companies. There's a couple of huge companies that go around and buy single-family homes. That should not be allowed.
Okay.
But the biggest problem is you put 5 million people, adults, into a country out of the blue, boom, like that. There's the housing can't keep up. It's just not feasible, sir.
You're right. No, you're right. But let's just not.
But it's true.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm willing to talk. I'm happy to talk about it. But don't try to fool people into thinking it's 90% of the problem.
Well, exactly what percentage it is then?
Well, I don't know what percentage it is, but it's not 90. Well, okay, but you know it's not 90, so stop being ridiculous. How's that for a deal?
Okay. Let's say 80. Can I grant 80?
No.
Okay, so what's your number then?
My number is less than 50.
And how do you come up with that number?
Well, because I gave you one example with speculation, real estate investment trusts. There are many aspects to this.
Man, I tell you, you are something to deal with. I'll tell you something.
Well, guess what? So are you. But that's how this goes. Mike, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
I can, sir.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll touch on the housing briefly. Like, I 100% agree that immigration is not the only issue, and it's just interesting that we have, 40 million people in this country and not enough houses, right? And we've been having immigrants come into this country for hundreds of years. So,
exactly.
It's not fair to say that now it's the problem. And it's not like, the fact that we're such a small population and don't have enough homes, I think that there's a supply issue as well, right? So, but the reason why I did want to call was about the speed cameras. And I feel as though, I might be one of the few that actually likes them. And maybe that's because I don't speed, and I really, I used to be a delivery driver, and I kind of, picked up some bad habits and then realized that speeding was part of the problem, right? So I had to change my behaviors, and I think that ultimately, like, if it was up to me, put a speed camera on every corner, red light camera on every corner. I think the 3 kilometers over is a little bit of excessive, but I think that's a speed limit issue, not the speed camera issue.
I got you, Mike. I got to get to the news update, but thank you for weighing in favor of speed cameras. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. Just thinking back on that call from Mike before the news update, and I'm sorry we had to cut it as quickly as we did. Because Mike's right. Like, the bottom line is we should not be speeding. We shouldn't be. We know we do. I drive the Iron Needles racetrack every day. I drive home on the Conestoga Parkway. Us old folks around here call it the Conestoga Parkway. I drive home on it every day. I set my cruise control. I see you blowing past me. We drive way too damn fast. But what the region has done with this speed camera scam is unfair. It's just unfair. And it's going to lead to way more problems than it's going to solve. I wish there was a better way to get the message through our thick skulls. But I guess until we do something really terrible when we're driving way too fast, we probably won't change our behaviors. But penalizing people for driving through school zones at 45 kilometers an hour on Christmas Day is not the answer to your problems, Region of Waterloo. I promise you that. It is not the answer to your problems. You got to figure this out. And anyway, that's my take. But bottom line is, Mike was right that we should not be speeding. We shouldn't be running red lights. We shouldn't be doing any of these things that we do, but we keep doing them. And so this is I guess this is what we get. This is what we get for having nice things. The ability, the freedom to speed whenever we want and run red lights whenever we want. You see how this works? It's a vicious circle. It really is. All right, back to the phones on Talkback. Dallas, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that last comment you just made 100%, every word.
Thank you.
100% right.
I love when you say, can you say that again? I'm going to take it home to my wife.
Well, you can replay it, can't you?
Absolutely.
Anyways, I'll say kudos to our East Avenue Blue, and God help us, they come home with the season winner or the series winner. I'm not looking forward to running up against London, but nonetheless, they've been our nemesis for a number of years.
They certainly have. They certainly have. But let's get over the hump tonight first.
Right. So anyways, two things. The CCTV.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. How many years have we been walking into grocery stores, malls, everything else, and hundreds of cameras all over the place? Nobody says a word about it. I got no problem with the community or police services, whatever, wanting to put out cameras to watch certain areas or all areas for that matter. I'm not saying it'll curb the crime, but chances are, if you look back at the UK, they've got them everywhere, and it doesn't curb the crime, but it makes it a whole lot easier catching the perpetrators. So, it's I don't know. People are all Big Brother's watching. Well, Big Brother's been watching for 30 years now, let's face it. As far as the affordable housing thing, I don't know exactly how somebody would attack it, but I think in a sensible way, it should be based on demographic. I 100% agree with your interviewer that you had on earlier, where say, okay, a developer comes in and he's going to make 10% or 20% of his units affordable housing, and the rent has dropped 20% of market value. Well, okay, so yeah, that depending on where you're living, that does not become affordable housing.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from. 20% or 80% of market rate. Dallas is spot on. Depending where you're living, that's not exactly going to be affordable for most or many. Brian Doucette was the guest, a planner at the University of Waterloo, a professor of planning, and he's coming out with a documentary. You can check out the trailer for yourself, housingfilm.ca, but it's a documentary entitled Thinking Beyond the Market, a film about genuinely affordable housing. We had a good conversation about it, and the documentary will be out later this year, and we'll touch on it again so we can all get there and see it, because it is a multi-layered, complex problem. Good call, Dallas. Ranger Joe, you're next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mikey. How are you?
Great, my friend. It's Game 7, baby. Let's go.
I'm telling you, they're going to do it.
I hope you're right.
No doubt in my mind. Hey, Mikey, the reason I'm phoning is this. It's about the price of gas. When they took the carbon tax off and they lowered the price of gas there quite a while ago now, at least a month, I would say, the price was floating around, depending where you went, once it was lowered, to about $1.14 to $1.18 a liter. Okay, right? And now I just drove past a Petro-Canada station just about an hour ago at Westmount and Fisher-Holman, and they're at $137.9. And all I was going to say was, I told my wife this the other day, keep an eye on these oil companies. If the government doesn't keep an eye on them and control the increases, we're going to be right back where we were before they took the carbon tax off. I'm telling you, Mike, it needs to be addressed, and I'm getting a little concerned about it because 137 is going to turn into 147, 150 something again in the next few months. You just watch it, Mike. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen, and I don't think it's right, Mike.
Joe, appreciate the call. You're the first one to raise it on the phone, second one to raise it on the show this week. I got an email about that very thing yesterday. Look, I have been alive long enough to know that we've been complaining about this for almost my entire adult life. And I'm not saying we're wrong to complain. I'm just saying gas prices are the bane of our existence. Talkback Hour continues. Have your say on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It's a busy show for busy people as we get ready for Game 7 tonight. Rangers, Spitfires, Harris Law pregame show right here on 570 News Radio. Your home for Rangers hockey gets underway at 6:30. Fixie and I making the drive this afternoon. Beautiful day. We'll get all of our work done as we talk on the drive and be ready to broadcast to you starting at 6:30 from the WFCU Center. Continuing the busy Talkback Hour, Sean, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Have you noticed that the Conservatives have suddenly started trotting out Stephen Harper in ads?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to miss.
Yeah, I would really love to know what the Conservatives' internal polls are saying about Pierre Poilievre. They've suddenly started trotting out Stephen Harper. I'd really love to know, what are the Conservatives' own polls saying about that they've resorted to this?
Well, it's an interesting question. I would submit to you that they find Stephen Harper more likable, maybe a little nostalgic, and that's what they're doing to woo the Conservative vote. Grant, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Now, that was a pretty goal that Pridham did for his
penalty shot.
Penalty shot.
Yes.
I can't wait for the game tonight. And the green tree is gone rotted.
Liam Greentree has rotted, says Grant. Liam Greentree, be careful. He scored 5 goals in one game during this series. He leads all OHL playoff goal scorers with 14. So it's not over yet, Grant, but it should be a big game tonight, and Liam Greentree will want to help the Windsor Spitfires win. Andre, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Sun's out for you.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Game day, baby.
Game day.
And kind of like Grant, I want to say that the Spitfire, well, it was 3-0, 4-0. And for Action Jackson, I think they ran out of fire. And I just want to say that tonight, yes, it's Game 7, and one game at a time. And tonight it counts a lot. But just like last time, just stay out of the box because they're going to be coming hard. Action's hot. You can't go through. That's fine. But the thing is just stay out of the box. And I truly have confidence on UC Okas for him to bring the boys there. And the boys, the young men, they made it to there themselves. It's right. And my last point, Mike, thank you, is about the speed camera. I hear a lot of people saying that even if they go 4 or 5 kilometers over, they're getting tickets once or twice even, and they pay it because they're low. But like you said, that's a cash grabber because when you go on a highway, it's 100. But let's say you go 110, 115, you can still get pulled out. It's at the discretion of the officer. The camera is not its own discretion, right? So if they want to put it at 30 during nighttime, they should put it like on Boardwalk or Fairway so people can slowly look at the stores and shop.
I disagree, but I get your point there, a little bit tongue-in-cheek at the end. I think we need to reevaluate our speed camera program. Robbie English, good afternoon.
Let's go Rangers!
Let's go Rangers!
Boy, my God. Well, safe travels, bud. I'm not going to bore you. We know what we got to do tonight. We did it the last 3 games. When I say we, I mean them on the ice and us watching them and cheering for them. Let's see. We've done it so far, but we could do it again. 60 more minutes away from Arian Brett Cousins. Take care. Drive safe.
Thanks, Robbie. I appreciate it. It's a big day. It's a big game tonight. George, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How you doing?
Excellent, thank you. How are you?
Good. I hope the Kitchener Rangers are listening. I've got a message for them.
Okay.
If any team in the OHL can come back for this season, the 24-25 season, it is the Kitchener Rangers. They can do it. They're going to do it. These guys are winners. Mike, have a safe trip down the 401.
Thanks, George. Appreciate that. You know, I'm with you on that sentiment. I said to my beloved when I was leaving the house for the game on Sunday, I said, I don't know. I got no feeling one way or the other. But I've walked out of this house 68 times plus playoffs before today, and most times I've come back with a win. It's my win, right? But George is right. This team is a hell of a team. If any team can pull off this improbable comeback, it's this Kitchener Rangers team. Big one tonight. Big one. Did I tell you? Pre-game coverage starts at 6:30 right here on 570 News Radio. Good. I'm glad I told you that. Ernie, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. Were you able to sleep last night?
Hardly. Barely a second, man.
Yeah, I could imagine that.
Yeah.
First of all, yeah, definitely go Rangers. I'm excited too. Comment on the gas thing. We all know the carbon tax is coming in if the Liberals win, so our gas rates will be set back to what they were, and they'll be stick and standard. But as far as the variances, I've definitely noticed that. We had to go to Toronto the other day, and that's already bad enough that you have to drive to Toronto. But looking at the gas pumps, it was $1.35 here in town, and I just went on Gas Buddy, and I checked to see, okay, what's the average? The stations, they can vary more than almost 10 cents now. So I know there's and where I was at, there's two stations side by side, so I'm pretty sure they match each other to increase their value or to not overcompete. But then you drive down the road, it's 10 cents cheaper. Gas is cheaper also too. After 4 o'clock, it does drop. So just a bit of advice on that. If you're looking for the cheapest gas, don't do it in the morning. Wait till later on, and it does work to use the Gas Buddy app to see the averages in town.
Ernie, great piece of advice for anybody that spends time on the road and wants to save a few bucks when they fill up the tank. It's your 12 o'clock talkback hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The countdown is officially on. To the end of this show, you lucky devil, you. 4 minutes away from 1, an update in the 570 News Center. Then Rob Snow, and Now You Know, is ready to take you through until 3 this afternoon. And the moment I sign off, I have to be careful to not let the door hit my derriere on the way out, because I got to skedaddle, and I'll be skedaddling as fast as my little legs will take me. So I don't keep Fixie waiting, and we can carpool to Windsor for the big Game 7 tonight. Our talkback hour is not yet done, though. Jim is with us. Good afternoon, Jim.
Yeah, hey, Mike. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
Good.
So just wondering how Mikey the Moose, your bus driver, is going to make it through a Game 7 tonight.
You're
going to be pacing in behind you tonight?
I was just going to say, I wish I knew. I mean, he's going to be having a very hard time. He'll be pacing wherever he is. Unfortunately, in Windsor, we are up on this catwalk way above, he can't come up there. So I don't know where he's going to be, but I guarantee you he'll be pacing, yes.
The game's in Erie. You could see him down in the one end, standing behind the glass from the TV.
Yep, that's the spot in Erie. And last year during the playoffs, Jim, if it got too tense for him in the arena area, he would go back out behind that wall that you would see him standing near to the bus and sit in the bus and listen to us because he couldn't stand being inside.
Well, do you think you should stop at the pharmacy, maybe see if they have anything for him?
I don't know. He lives and dies with this team. It's hilarious and entertaining.
And get you down there safely. It's a nice sunny day.
It is indeed.
Pretty flat drive down to Windsor.
Yeah, basically once you get past London, you can close your eyes and let the bus steer itself, right?
Enjoy the game. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate the call. It is a full team effort. Mike the Moose Reeves, our bus driver, I keep telling him that he's the most famous bus driver in the entire OHL. And I don't think that's far off. But he does get fully invested with this hockey club. And in Kitchener, when the seat is available, we find an extra spot in our broadcast booth for him. And he's been watching many of these playoff games with Paul Fixter and I in our David Schooley broker with Remax Twin City broadcast booth. The negotiator gets it done. And Moosey's good. He knows you're not allowed to cheer in the press box. But when he gets nervous, he will pace and get up from his seat in our press box and walk out to the hallway in behind and do the pacing that he needs to do, catch his breath, come back in. I honestly don't know where in Windsor he watches, but I'll try to find out tonight and check in with him to make sure he's going to be okay. He will be. Big Game 7. The Kitchener Rangers trying to become just the 6th team in OHL history to come from 3-0 down in a series and win in 7. The Ottawa 67s did it back in 1988. The Windsor Spitfires did it in 2005 and 2010. In 2010, it was against us. In 2014, the Peterborough Petes did it. And in 2019, it was the Guelph Storm who came back from 3-0 down to win a series in 7. The Kitchener Rangers can join that club if they pick up another win tonight. Wouldn't it be a fun story? Cheer for the story and the game in this case. It's going to be a beauty. Paul Fixter and I will be on the air at 6:30 with your Harris Law pregame show. I'm going to get there. You stay right here and keep listening to the station that is your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey. An update from the 570 News Center and then Now You Know with Rob Snow. My name is Mike Farwell. Talk to you in a few hours from Windsor. Bye for now.